Mm. One change for 2 hours. Feels
But
so
you're
much
rough for
better.
now. That's okay.
Hmm?
So this is under.
If I have to, I will.
That's why I have this. If you wanna, it's easier to, it's way easier to see. It's, if I, yeah, I mean, it's way easier to see with that light, but
If someone just hit OK on the computer screen, just to get rid of that message.
yeah. I mean, could you hit OK on the computer? Thanks. Watch
Thank
this.
you.
Yeah, I'll make do. We gotta figure this out though. Yeah, this place wasn't designed as a TV studio. Jason, there's nothing there apparently.
Okay, well, we're good to go.
Before we tell me, before we give me a minute before we go live. Uh,
Talk to you.
Is supposed to be.
Whatever.
Should we start? Yeah. By the way, for anyone who wants to follow along, we're going to do a brief Mars service. Brief. So we're using the Weekday book, if you'd like to follow along. Otherwise, you can just kind of, roll with it. Weekday. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm on page 409 of the Weekday and Festival book. We'll start by getting into the spirit. Chag Purim, Chag Purim, Chag Gadol HaYehudim, Masechot Rashanim, Zmirot Rekudim, Havana Risha, Rash, Havana Risha, Rash, Havana Risha, Rash, Verashanim. Now I know some of you have your Rashanim that you brought from home. Some of you have some of these wonderful boxes of rigatoni that you can shake. So I want to hear when we say Rash, I want to hear you practice because we've got a lot of rashing to do. Chag Purim, Chag Gadol HaYehudim, Masechot Rashanim, Zmirot Rekudim, Havana Risha, Rash, Havana Risha, Rash, Havana Risha, Rash, Barashanim. Now, there's a couple other things we need to practice, I think. One is celebrating Mordechai. So on three, when I say his name, I want to hear some cheering. 1, 2, 3. Mordechai! Not bad. And of course, there's another name that we have to blot out with those Rashanim. And that name, which I shall pronounce in a moment, but not yet, is Haman. I think you can do better. Haman. All right, I think we've got it. Esther. Yay! Come on, give some props to a princess. Come on. All right, so I think we've got it. All right, so I'm going to call everyone up when we get to Megillah part of our festivities. I'll call you up when it's your time, or I'll introduce the next person who's going to be on the screen if you're virtual. So, with that, I'm going to invite you to turn all the way back in our books, if you've got a book, to the weekday evening service, which begins on page 4. Putting on and taking off a guitar with a tiara on. I've never done that before. It's new. Okay. I'll invite you to rise for the call to prayer. Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam vaed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Olam asher bidvaru marivarim bechokma sherim ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אלוהי וקיים תמידים לא חלנו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. I'm on page 8 אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך טוב כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו והם נגד יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. page 10 שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. נא לשבת. Continue with the Ve'ahavta at your own pace. Ve'ahavta et Adonaicha b'kol לבבך אשר נותן מצווך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם משפחה בביתך ובשלחך ומך וקשרתם לאור על ידיך ויתבוא בין עיניך וקדרתם על זו ביתך משעבך אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, ומנחזו וקיים עלינו מלכינו וגואלנו מכף המוריצים וגואלצים ולא נחשבים נפלא ונמצאתם ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם. page 16 מי כמוך בעלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בהוקע ים לבני משה ומרים זה אליהו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל מי כמוך בעלים אדוני. page 18 אשכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום עמידנו מלכם שומרנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ותקננו בעצה טובה מלבנך והושיענו למשפט. כי אל שומרנו מצילנו אתה כי אל חנון ורחום אתה ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום אתה ואור העולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל לעד. page we turn to page 74 for tefillah. 74. I invite you to rise. Adonai sevatai titavu v'yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. 76, Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Yanora, Ha'el Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה 78 אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 80, אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. I invite you to take a few moments to have the prayers of your heart or the words that are offered on the following pages, and we'll rejoin one another for the evening prayer for peace on page 96 in a few moments. Feel free to continue at your own pace, or you can join me on 93. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. It's 96. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. While our hearts are open, let's turn to page 2. Oh, it's not going to be 253 as it normally is it? No, of course, it couldn't be that easy. Let's actually turn to page 293. And we'll recite this insertion to the Amidah, which is traditional for Purim. Al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot ve'al hatshuvot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh על הניסים ועל הפורקן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. Let's read together. We thank you also for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds and saving acts brought about by you, and for the wars which you waged for our ancestors in days of old at this season. And let's continue beneath B'yamei Mordechai ve'Esther b'Shushan Habirah. In the days of Mordechai and Esther, the wicked Haman, good practice, arose in Persia, plotting the destruction of all the Jews. He planned to destroy them in a single day, the 13th of Adar, and to permit the plunder of their possessions. But through your great mercy, his plan was thwarted, his scheme was frustrated. We therefore thank and bless you, O great and gracious God. So we'll take a moment also to recite a Misha Berach for all those who are ill, for all those whose names we hold in our hearts. Especially this day we're keeping in our prayers and thought Devorah Bat Basya. Let's sing together for their recovery of Refuat HaNefesh u'Refuat HaGuf, of body and spirit. Mishe Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. All right, so we will conclude Mari formally after the Megillah reading. We'll have a chance to say Aleinu, and then, of course, Mourner's Kaddish for those who are observing yard sites or who are in mourning themselves. At this point, I'll invite you to set aside your Sidurim and to take out your beautifully printed, abridged Megillat Esther with a footnote. This abridged Megillat Esther is available at the back as you walk in, and it is adopted from another source by J.M. Karen Black from 2011. So, once everyone comes back in the room, we'll recite the brachot, which is very exciting. Oh, a lot of people did not get the memo. That's okay. Self-service. God helps those who help themselves. Right? Good. And I hope you all helped yourself to some ronzoni, the San Fernando treat. See what I did there? Okay, you've all got your groggers ready. Okay. Very good. So, as we re-enter, I'll just make a brief commercial plug that the Megillah reading this evening is sponsored by Adlo Yada, the amazing new wonder drug that is going to be featured in our video Purim spiel on Friday. And some of you in this room have been watching and paying attention. You know that it's a very special product. So I'm just going to have a little bit before we start. We say Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niheh b'dvaro. That tastes so blue. Wow. Wow, I never knew wiper fluid was so good. Okay. So we'll start with the verses, the blessings, and then I'll read a few verses, and then I'm going to invite Roberta Lulov to read chapter 1 virtually. So Jason, cue her up. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mikra megillah. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem Bazman hazeh, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Vayahi beyemei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh, hamelech mehodu ad kush, sheva esrim umeya medina, bayamim hahem keshevet, hamelech Achashverosh, Kisei malchuto asher b'shushan habira. Take it away, Roberta. Spotlight, Roberta.
I am Joe Marquis, your MC, and we personally hope that you have enjoyed or will enjoy the fine people we have arranged for your listening and dancing pleasure. Now, the Club Black Rhino is proud to present direct from the statewide automobile tour of Illinois and Indiana. Originally from Calumet City, Illinois. Let's put your hands together. I say put your hands together to the blues band of Johnny and Dick and Ellen Blues. The blues, the blues.
Okay. In the days of Ahasuerus, who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a banquet for the nobles and the princes of the provinces, the power of Persia and Media. At the same time, Vashti, the queen, made a banquet for the women. On the 7th day, when the king was merry with wine, he commanded to bring Vashti, his queen, before him, wearing the royal crown. But she refused to come, and the king was very, very, very angry. And he said to his wise men, "What shall we do to Queen Vashti, because she has not performed my command?" Vashti, the queen, has wronged not only the king, but all the people who are under your rule. For all the women will hear of her action and shall despise their husbands, because she refused the king's command. Therefore, let a royal command be written that Vashti shall never, ever, ever again enter the presence of King Ahasuerus, and let the king choose a new queen, more deserving than she is. Then all the wives shall respect their husbands, whoever they be. They sent letters to every province,
Page 2.
according to its writing, and to every people in their own language, so that every man should rule in his own house.
King in his own castle. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you.
Rubber biscuit? Okay, so thank you, Blues Brothers and Blues Sisters. Next, we have, for Chapter 2, the Freeman family.
Yes, just Mr. Freeman right now.
Okay,
But-
we have Mr. Freeman.
All right. So sometime later, when the king's anger had subsided, he found he was missing Vashti. So the king's servants said,
Let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king, and let the girl which pleases the king be queen in the place of Vashti.
the king liked the idea and agreed. Now the capital, Shushan, lived a Jew by the name of Mordechai, whose family had come there as exiles from Jerusalem. And he brought up Esther, for she was an orphan. She was shapely and beautiful. And when her parents died, Mordecai had adopted her as his daughter.
So when the king's decree was heard, and when many girls were gathering in Shushan, Esther too went to join the king's harem. Now Esther had not revealed her people or her origins, for Mordecai had said it would be better that she should not mention it. Every day, Mordecai would walk by the court of the harem to see how Esther was doing. After more than 3 years, it was Esther's turn to go to King Ahasuerus. He realized that Esther was different from all the other women, and she found grace and favor in his sight. So he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. About this time, Mordecai overheard two of the king's eunuchs, Bigtan and Teresh, plotting to kill King Ahasuerus. He told Esther, and Esther informed the king. When the matter was investigated, it was found to be true, and they were both hanged. It was recorded in the king's record.
Thank you, Freemans. You know, there's something that always strikes me as funny, that it's the eunuchs who have this plot to kill the king, but to plot to kill the king, it takes a lot of... Anyways, all right, we're going to hear a little bit of chapter 2. Thank you, Freemans. Achar hadvarim ha'ele keshoch chamat. No, it's not actually, no, it's chamat. Chamat. I fooled you. It's a different word. Chamat. Hamelech Achashverosh zachar ve'et Vashti et asata ve'et asher gezar aleha vayomeru na'arei hamelech mesharta ve'yavakshu lamelech na'arot betulot tovot mar'eh ve'yavked hamelech bekidim bechol medinat malchuto ve'yikbetzu et kol na'ara betula tovahat mar'eh el shushan habira el beit hanashim ve'ad yad hagesaris hamelech shomer hanashim ve'naton hamaharu kehen hana'ara asher titav be'enei hamelech timloch tachat Vashti ve'yitav hadavar be'enei hamelech Yahas hakein ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira ושמו מרדכי בן יאיר בן שמעי בן קיש איש ימיני. All right, now we'll hear from the Litz, chapter 3. Cue up the Litz. Get your groggers ready, because chapter 3 is full of Okay, chapter 3. Are the Litz there?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Take it away.
Sometime later, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman and put him in charge of the court. All the king's servants knelt and bowed low to Haman, but Mordechai would not kneel or bow, for he had told them that he was a Jew and would only bow to God. When Haman saw this, he was filled with anger. But he decided not to lay hands on Mordechai alone, having heard who his people were. Instead, Haman plotted to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire. Haman said,
"This promotion means nothing to me so long as I see that Mordechai, the Jew, sitting in the palace gate."
And Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends said to him,
"Have a gallows made 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak to the king that Mordechai may be hanged on it."
The idea pleased Haman, and he had the gallows made. Haman asked Purim, that is, dice or lots, to select the 13th day from verses 13 of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar. Then he said to King Ahasuerus,
"There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom, and their laws are different from those of every other people. You do not keep the king's laws. Therefore, it is not in your majesty's interest to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be declared that they may be destroyed, and I will also contribute 10,000 talents of silver to the king's treasuries."
So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the enemy of the Jews. And the king said to him,
"I give these people to you to deal with as you think fit."
So the decree was issued in the king's name and signed with the king's signet ring to destroy, massacre, and exterminate all Jews, young and old, children and women, on that day.
Ooh, let's hear a little bit of what that sounds like in the Hebrew. בחודש הראשון הוא חודש ניסן, בשנת 12 למלך אחשוורוש. הפיל פור הוא הגדול לפני המן. מיום ליום ומחודש לחודש שני 12 הוא חודש אדר. Okay, chapter 4. We're going to hear from Randy Zoller. Randy. Oh, you've got your own microphone.
Not a real one. Hi.
When Mordechai discovered what had happened, he cried with a loud and a bitter cry. Oh! And in every province, wherever the king's decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews and fasting and wailing. Mordechai told Esther what had happened and asked her to go to the king to plead with him for her people. But Esther replied, "Everyone knows that whoever comes before the king without being called is to be put to death, unless the king should hold out the golden scepter, that they may live. And I have not been called to come to the king for a month. Do not think that you of all the Jews will escape with your life because you are in the king's palace. On the contrary, if you remain silent at this time, relief will come to the Jews from another quarter. But you and your ancestors' house shall be destroyed. But who knows? Perhaps you have attained your royal position for just such a crisis as this? Then go, assemble all the Jews of Shushan and fast for me for 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." So Mordechai went his way as Esther had said.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear that last little piece of it. So, ותאמר אסתר להשיב את מרדכי לכנוס את כל היהודים הנמצאים בשושן וצומו עלי ואל תאכלו ואל תשתו שלושת ימים לילה ויום גם אני ונערותי עצום כן ובכן אבוא אל המלך אשר לא כדת כאשר עבדתי. Okay, chapter 5 will be read by Karen and Aaron Romero. Woo! Also, I need more cheering when we hear Esther and Mordechai. I'm not hearing it. It might be my hearing, but I just not. We turn that knob up to 11. Thank you. One moment. While we're waiting, I just want to remind everybody at home to buy Hamantashen by Adlo Yada. They're delicious and addictive. You can take the hat off the mic. And if you want that mic, hang on.
On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, and the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal palace.
And when he saw Esther standing in the court, he was pleased, and he held out the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near, and the king said to her, "What do you wish, Queen Esther? And what is your request? It shall be given to you, even to half the kingdom."
Sir, if it seems good to the king, let the king and Haman come to a banquet that I am preparing for you. Then the king said,
"Make Haman hurry, as he may do as you have said." That night the king could not sleep, and he ordered the book of... Oh, it's chapter 6. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Thank you, Romeros. Woo! All right. So we're on chapter 6. Actually, we'll hear a little bit of chapter 5 first. Let's see so let's do a little bit of the part where she approaches him. Vayihi kirot hamelech ve'et Esther hamalka. Woo! Omedet b'chatzer nas'a hen be'einav vayoshet hamelech le'Esther et sharvit. That's wrong. Et sharvit hazahav asher beyado v'tikrav Esther vatiga berosh hasharvit. Okay, Esther, Dorothy, and Ed Greenbaum are going to read chapter 6, and they're going to be, let's see what they're dolled up as.
That night, the king could not sleep, and he ordered that the book of records be brought, and they were read before the king. And they read about Mordechai denouncing Bigtan, Peres, villains who had plotted to kill the king.
What honor and dignity has been done to Mordechai for this? Let me check. Nothing? Nothing was done for him? Really? What, nothing? Who is in the court right now?
Now, Haman just entered the outer court of the king's palace, so the king's servant said to him,
Behold, Haman.
Haman, come in. So Haman came in, and the king said to him, What shall be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor? Haman.
Haman.
Whom would the king wish to honor more than me? Sir, for the man whom the king wishes to honor, let the king's royal clothing be brought, and the horse that the king rides upon with the royal crown set upon its head, and let this clothing and horse be delivered at the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may dress the man whom the king wishes to honor, and lead him on horseback through the streets of the city, proclaiming before him, Thus shall be done to the man whom the king wishes to honor.
Excellent. Hurry and take the clothing and the horse, as you have said, and do so to Mordechai the Jew.
Hey!
Omit no detail of what you had said.
Gasping, flummoxed, angry. So he had to take the clothing and the horse and dress Mordechai and lead him on horseback through the streets of the city and proclaim before him,
Thus shall be done to the man whom the king delights to honor.
He brought Mordechai back to the palace gate and then hurried home, his head covered in mourning. And he told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. But they said to him,
If Mordecai, before whom you stumbled, is a Jew, you will not prevail against him. You will surely fall before him, because, as Alter says, of the Jew there is a special, indomitable power. In the seed of the Jew it rests. Go Zelensky. That's not in the book, but I like that.
All right. Whilst
Looking off script there. Looking off script there.
That's a little creative writing, but it's topical. Go ahead.
Perfectly acceptable.
Whilst they were still consoling him, the king's eunuchs came and hurried to bring him to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Woohoo! Okay, so that ends chapter 6. We'll just hear a little bit of that. Vayomer hamelech leHaman Maher הסוס ואת הסוס כאשר דיברת, ואעשה כן למרדכי היהודי היושב בשער המלך, תפל דבר מכל אשר דיברת. All right, so we're going to hear now from Marcy and Gary. No, I take that back. I eat those words like I eat Hamantashen laced with Ad Lo Yada. We're going to hear now from Debbie Gruber and Michael Sanders. We're going to hear from Michael Sanders. Awesome.
Right.
Your hair is almost as awesome as mine.
Yeah, you'll get there.
I'll get there.
So like the queen and Haman came to like feast with Esther, the queen. And like the king said, whoa, Esther, once more, Esther, once more. What is your position, O Queen Esther? And it shall be granted, even to half the kingdom. If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me as my petition, and my people as my request. For we have been sold, me and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, to be wiped out. What? Who is he, and where is he that presumes in his heart to do this? The adversary and enemy is the wicked Haman. Whoa, Haman cringed in terror before the king and queen, and one of the eunuchs said to the king, behold, there is a gallows 50 cubits high. The cubits like this, right? Standing at Haman's home, which he built for Mordechai, whose word saved the king. Perfect. Hang him on it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai, and the king's anger was abated. Yeah. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. That very it was a little bit Bill Murray-esque. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so that was chapter 7. We're going to hear we hear from Marcy and Gary Kesner. Are they there? Yes, Marcy's on.
Yes. That very day, King Ahasuerus gave the estate of Haman, enemy of the Jews, to Esther, the queen. Mordechai presented himself before the king after Esther explained how they were related. And Esther put Mordechai in charge of Haman's estate. Then she said,
if it please the king, let it be decreed to revoke the plans devised by Haman to destroy the Jews who are in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see the evil and destruction that shall come to my people?
but King Ahasuerus said to Esther and Mordechai,
I'm the king. I'm no clown. Once I have written down an order in my name and sealed it with my ring right here, it can never be revoked. However, let's do a little workaround. You may write about the Jews in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring, which I give to you, Esther, instead of Mordechai. After all, this is Women's History Month.
Okay. The king's scribes were called, and they wrote in the king's name to every province according to its writing, and to every people in their own language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. And Esther sealed it with the king's ring, permitting the Jews in each city to gather together and to fight for their lives, killing anybody who attacked them. And Mordecai, very enthusiastically, Mordecai went out from the king's presence in royal clothes of blue and white, and with a magnificent crown of gold and a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. And in every province and in every city, the Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor.
Well done, well done. Marcy, did you knit that scarf as well?
No, I bought it. I buy lots of scarves.
Okay, we'll hear a little bit of that chapter 7, little pieces. Vayomer hamelech Achashverosh. Oh yes, Melech Achashverosh. Vayomer Esther Hamalka mi hu ze ve'ezehu asher melo libo ve'asod chen v'tomer Esther ish tsar va'oyev Haman hara hazeh ve'Haman niv'at milifnei hamelech hamalka u'Mordechai yatsa milifnei hamelech bilvush malchut techelet v'hod ve'ateret zahav gedula v'tachrich boots argaman ha'ir Shushan sahala samecha leYehudim hayta ora ve'simcha v'sason v'hikar. Okay, that's going to be a hard act to follow up. So Bob Kessler is going to read chapter 9.
Okay, not only that, I get the gory military part, and I was told you had to bring something for Purim related. So I just happened to have been in Baghdad one day, and a guy shows up and says, "You look like somebody who'll celebrate Purim. How would you like an authentic Mordechai Hebrew cavalry tie?" So I said, "You have a tie that's 2,500 years old?" And he looked at me very upset and said, "Hey, the Jews built a temple in the wilderness, so why can't they have a 25-year-old 100 tie?" So I present this for what it is worth. I bring a piece of perhaps real archaeology to the meeting. Okay.
That would be Purim archaeology.
You're going to argue with this merchant who had ancient goods?
I wouldn't dream of it.
And on the 13th day of the 12th month Adar, on the very day that the enemies of the Jews had planned to have power over them, the very opposite happened. And so it was they dealt with their enemies on the 13th of Adar and rested on the 4th, making it a day of fasting and merrymaking. Now, rabbis always have to turn something into a spiritual lesson, right? So I'm about to read the names of Haman's 10 sons who were hung by the Hebrews all at once.
In one breath.
The tradition is it's done in one breath to show that the Hebrews were so efficient, they did them all at once. But that was not enough for the rabbis. The 10 names of Haman, which, as the cantor said, you're supposed to read in one breath, but my days as a baritone at the Met are over, so I doubt I can do that. But as everything in the Bible, it's controversial. The 10 names happen to be ancient Persian names, but they're not common. It's not like Joe or Sam or Shmuel or something. So the rabbis took the 10 names and took the nearest roots they could find linguistically to them. And I won't bore you with all 10 of them, but this is 18th century Persian rabbi in the Sassoon family. And for example, one of the Haman's kids is named Aspa, which in ancient Persian means the soldier. But he said it actually means gathering. And each one of these 10 names is one of the evil inclinations that the Hebrews are supposed to eliminate. And in Aspa's case, because it sort of could be connected to the word gathering, it shows that man should not desire to make money, but should spend his time studying Torah and perfecting his mitzvahs. And the second name I picked out is Adalia, which in ancient Persian is also not a first name, it's the brave one. But the rabbis found it at a linguistic root for haughty and arrogant. So each of these 10 names I'm about to read, but not in one breath, actually teach a moral lesson according to our rabbis. Okay, so I'll back up a little. The fighting lasted throughout the kingdom, and the Jews rested on the 14th, making it a day of feasting and merrymaking, except in Shushan, the capital, where the fighting lasted 2 days, and the Jews killed 500 men, including Parashata, Dalphon, Aspada, Parada, Adalia, Aradata, Parmashata, Arise, Aride, and Bazata. The 10 sons of Haman, the enemies of the Jews, and on the 15th day of Adar did they all rest, making it a day of feasting. Then Mordechai sent letters to all the Jews that were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, that they should each observe the 14th day of the month of Adar, or the 15th day, depending where they lived, to remember when the month was turned from sorrow to joy and from mourning to a holiday, that they should celebrate days of feasting and joy and the sending of presents to one another and gifts to the poor. And if anybody would like another exact regimental tie from that, I can connect you to the Persian dealer.
Okay, thank you, Bob. That was great. Let's finish things up and invite Elaine Springer to read chapter 10.
And Mordechai the Jew ranked next to King Ahasuerus. He was great among the Jews and was popular with the multitude of his people, seeking their good and speaking for their welfare. The end.
Okay, Vayasem HaMelech Achashverosh Mas Haaretz ve'iye hayam v'chol ma'aseh takpo ugvuroto ufarasht gedulad Mordechai asher godlo hamelech Elohem katuvim al sefer divrei hayamim lemalchei miyar ufaras ki Mordechai hayehudi Mishne lemelech Achashverosh vegadol leYehudim v'ratzu lerov Achav doresh tov le'amo v'dover shalom lechozaro. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam harav et rivenu vehadan et dinenu vehanokem et nekamtenu veham shalem gemul lechol oivei nafshenu vehanifara lanu mitzreinu. Baruch ata Adonai, hanifra li'amo Yisrael, mikol tzareihem, ha'el haMoshiach. All right. Mordechai, Haman, Esther. Yay! All right. I hope you all have had a chance to celebrate until you adlo yada, do not know the difference between Haman and Mordechai. And if you haven't yet had that chance, I encourage you to do that at some point in the next 24 hours with food, with drink. If it's some kind of special drink, I encourage you to do that at home. Also to stuff your faces full of these delicious three-cornered addictive hamantashen. They're so good. And if you haven't tasted a hamantashen yet, please be sure to pick up some of our shalach manot, our bags, our gift bags, as you leave tonight. There are plenty of hamantashen left to take home and to give to your TBE friends as well. Okay. Yes, sir. The blue liquid is something called adlo yada. It's a special ad delo. Ad means until. Delo, you cannot. Yada, no. And we say on Purim, you should celebrate, you should be simcha until you don't know the difference, ad lo yada, between Mordechai and Haman. So take that for what it's worth. Some people say you should eat yourself silly. So there's a commandment that you should have a seudat mitzvah. You should have a meal, a festive meal, and eat until you're stuffed. Also, give to the poor. Matanot lev yonim is one of the special things about Purim, that we give to those who are less fortunate. And all of your Gregors, if you've been using this beautiful Ronzoni, the San Fernando treat, if you've been using this, these will be contributed to the needy here in Great Neck. As always, if you have additional dry goods or canned goods that you'd like to contribute toward the communal food pantry, there is a bin just as you enter the lobby. Okay, we're going to say Aleinu and Kaddish, so those who are in Avelut can say that. Aleinu in the blue book is on page 322. I had that at the tip of my tongue. Okay. Na lakum aleinu leshabeach la'adon hakol lateit gedula leyotze bereshit shelo asanu ki goyei ha'aratzot velo hosamanu kemishpechot ha'adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem vegohor aleinu kechol ha'mohonam va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech Malchei Hamlachim, Akadosh Baruch Hu. 324. Shehu notei shamayim veyosed haaretz, u'moshev yekaro b'shamayim imal, u'shchinatu zo begovei meromim, u'Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes zulato, ככתוב בתורתו, ויראת היום וישב אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. As we turn to page 334, we turn our hearts to those who are in mourning and those who are observing yard sites. If you are among them, I invite you to remain standing, or if it's your custom, as it is here, to remain standing for the martyrs of our people, or in solidarity with those who are in suffering. Please feel free to do so now as we say together, Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yimeru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulomei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'yimeru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. Oseh shalom b'miromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimeru amen. You may be seated. Okay, there's no announcements except to enjoy Purim. And we'll close with, let's close with Shoshanat Yaakov, which is back on page 3, 4, 5, page 573, no, page 409, which is playing around. Okay. Shoshanat Yaakov Tzahala v'samecha birotam yachad techelet Mordechai. Shoshanat Yaakov Tzahala v'samecha birotam yachad techelet Mordechai. Shuatam hayita lanetzach. Shuatam hayita lanetzach. Shuatam hayita lanetzach. V'tikvatam bechol dor vador. Leodisheko kovechash lo yoshvehu velo yikamu lanetzach. Kol hachosim bach. Arur Haman, Asher bikesh lavadi, Baruch Mordechai Yehudi. Arur Haman, Asher bikesh lavadi, Baruch Mordechai la Yehudi. Berucha Esther Badi. Chag Purim Sameach, everybody. Thank you for being here and participating.
Happy Purim.
Happy Purim. Make sure to pick up your Hamantashen on the way out. Thank you, everyone who
Happy Purim, everybody. Have fun. Be safe. Go home and then drink. Don't drink and go home.
Purim Spiel will be shared on Friday night.
Listen to the doctor.
And will be available afterwards on YouTube. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Cantor.
you.
Thank you, Cantor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Cantor.